Hello class, my name is Theodore Hyde. I'm a junior English major from Los Angeles, California, and I'm doing this project for American Lit 1 for Professor Corey Claiborne. And what this project is basically about is about what American literature means, what it means to me, what it should mean to everybody. Basically, American literature is just a combination of stories that America has gained over its time, over its history, all the events that happened, which led up to our development of America. And what's important to point out is how America was first started. So, you turn your attention to this whiteboard over here. Over here, we have the Europeans. And a lot of people was facing racial or religious prejudice. So to escape that and seek religious freedoms, what they wanted to do is come all the way over here to America, which wasn't theirs, but they came anyway. Let's go. So they came in vast ships. A lot of people sailed the whole Atlantic, and then arrived at America. And they started setting up a whole bunch of colonies right here on the east coast of America. And when they started setting up colonies, they realized they were not the first people here. Who were here were all indigenous people known as the Indians, Native Americans, whatever you want to call them. So there's clashes between them, and what the Europeans ended up doing is moving them towards the middle, taking up what is what not theirs, and creating it to be early America. And then, as time passed on, they wanted to develop a working system where they get money, produce crops, to create revenue, and to trade with other countries in Europe. So, their Africans were on also ships in vast amounts over to America. This is how America got slaves. So on America, you have Native Americans, Europeans, slaves living all together. Alright. So we have a combination of the Europeans, Native Americans, and African slaves on this country. And over America's history, there have been many conflicts such as the Indian removal, Civil War, conflicts with slavery, freeing slaves, whether they should have rights or not. All these are stories that developed within what is this known as America, which could also be called, these stories, American literature. All the authors that spoke about their opinions during these times put it in books, and that's how most stories were spread throughout America, so like people knew what was happening. All of that is known as American literature. That's a book. Alright, so basically that is what American literature is in a nutshell. What I want to specifically touch on is what is African American literature. And African American literature definitely consists of early poems, slave letters, songs, even like press from freed men about like the condition of black people in the time before the 1850s. And most of these works definitely consisted on talking about the situation of black life, freedom struggles, and mainly also like slavery, their conditions on working for free, getting treated like horribly. That's basically what most African American lit is based on. And some popular works that talk about this are Uncle Tom's Cabin, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs, and the narrative Frederick Douglass, obviously by Frederick Douglass. Alright, so yeah, these three stories are all prime examples of what African American literature mainly represents. Uncle Tom's Cabin being about an old man in slavery. Even though it was written by a white person, in their perspective, they were still trying to show the rest of the country how the horrors of slavery is affecting everybody. She was just trying to like express what that meant to her. That's another meaning of like what literature is. And then Incidents of the Life of a Slave Girl is a personal narrative of Harriet Jacobs of how she was almost forced to be a sex slave of her master. She was forced to do other drastic things in order to avoid that. And that story also shows the horrors of like what slavery was like for people, because most people don't understand what that meant. And in the narrative, Frederick Douglass, he talked about like his insight of being in slavery, how he didn't know his name, he didn't know his father, and how his escape like hugely impacted his life because he was able to help slaves from the outside reach their freedom. So yeah, these basically are some prime examples of what African American literature is and what its purpose was to do in the early times of America, is to like help spread these messages of like the struggle that African Americans were going through. And that is basically African American literature right there. Thank you for your time.